I realize we've fallen a little out of practice with the reading of the commission mission statement in our own words. Did you have something for us?
I do have one.
Wonderful.
Okay, our mission is to enrich the lives of the residents by providing safe, welcoming parks and recreation facilities and affordable, diverse recreation and human services activities for people of all ages to play, learn, contemplate, build community, and be good stewards of our environment.
Very nice. Love that. Thank you. I hope that whatever we're writing and sharing, maybe we save so that when we do come together.
It is. It should be in the minutes of your meeting, so you should see them there.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Batterson. Mr. Posada, if we could have please roll.
Certainly. Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. So we'll start off with you today. Present.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Velasco.
Present.
Commissioner Carey.
Present.
Commissioner Batterson.
Present.
And Commissioner Burtnett.
Present.
Thank you. You are all here. Thank you very much.
The minutes of the August 8th, 2017 commission meeting have been distributed. Has everybody had a chance to read through those? If there are no additions or changes, then we'll go ahead and approve those as distributed. I have...
Do you need a movement on that?
I think that if it's all been distributed, that it's in order to approve them as distributed unless there's any changes, and then we can make a motion.
Okay.
Thank you. I have one public comment slip. Ms. Souza, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Alex Posada, Teresa, Jim, Dennis. Just for the record, my name is Virginia Souza. I'm an organizer with Buena Vista Beautifiers, a grassroots organization that's been meeting monthly for the last 4 years. Our mission is to maintain and enhance the Buena Vista or beautiful view qualities of the park while respecting the historical features of the park. Our Facebook page is Buena Vista SM at Facebook. Our next meeting is at noon at the Campfire Cabin at Buena Vista Park on the 27th of September, where Jim Davis will present the final and detailed plan for Buena Vista Park. Buena Vista Beautifiers has not really been in the loop to see the final playground equipment and the final layout, and we're looking forward to having Mr. Davis come over and show us. We'd like to also know what we can do to raise money for the features and assets that possibly are not in the budget, like extra benches, and we're in the process of interviewing all of our members to see what their priorities are for those extras. I'm looking at the latest article in the Santa Maria Times, July 14th, which stated that the park would still receive a totally new bathroom, which we are very much in favor of. We hope that's still the case. The old bathroom's been remodeled. But our main concern was there was virtually no progress since the fencing went in March, even though the article said lots of progress had been made, or a lot of, to quote the article, when really the bathroom work was the only work aside from a trench and cutting some trees down. And we think that could have been done and still leave the park available for the neighborhood, which is densely populated. And as you heard children testify, that is their backyard. Buena Vista Beautifiers believes they did a decent job redeeming and activating the park. Gangbangers were driven out, graffiti ceased, and parents were feeling their kids could play safely. The city had some programs in the park. All that has ceased since that fence went up in March. We call on the Parks Commission to ask why there were so many delays and be closely informed on all the details of the park as they go into place. Because we depend on you to be our eyes and ears on these important issues for those neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Souza. Just to clarify, Mr. Davis, I know that the Buena Vista project has ongoing updates on our city website. Is the commission going to receive any updates formally at a commission meeting anytime in the future?
Yeah, we can give you one next month,
Okay.
if you like. We should be, right now it's in the engineer's hands, and they're getting all the paperwork and all the bonds and all those things together that need to be before they can begin the project, so. And we have done the demolition stuff, and the website has been updated
Okay,
recently.
very good.
What time is that meeting on the 27th?
All right, moving on to item 4A, we have a recreation program presentation from Mr. Davy.
Hello, everybody. I go from So I was here presenting to you, I don't know, 10 weeks ago or so, just letting you all know what we had planned for our summer programs. First of all, what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Logan since he's here. Logan was pretty much in my face for 10 weeks, which was great. I mean, he really did a great job promoting our programs, and I just want to thank you for that. It was phenomenal. So this is my team of staff that did everything that we did this summer. In total, we did 20 different programs in an 8-week period, roughly an 8-week period. Some of those programs really, even though there's 20, you'll see that, as an example, we have 11 safe and strong sites. So it just takes account, I count those as one. So we did quite a bit. This summer we offered a program called Teen Trails. We offered 4 trips. The trips are there listed on the right-hand side. Any of our youth and teens, junior high through high school, could participate in our Teen Trails program. Most of those trails are anywhere between 2.5 miles and 4.5 miles. They're what would be considered fairly easy hikes. Yeah. Then we had our Teen Treks. Teen Treks is an opportunity for kids to kind of get out of town and participate in various activities that are, what we try to do is try to expose them to things that they may not normally be exposed to. Sometimes we kind of try to put a mix in of like the regular stuff. So you'll see Rancho Bowl. But, the kayaking, the Cloud 10, those are kinds of new things that kids may not be normally exposed to. So there's on the top left-hand corner is a lighthouse tour, the Avalon Lighthouse, the water slides in Paso Robles, kayaking in Morro Bay, and zip lining, and I think that was Santa Margarita there. The youth center had an open house just before summer started, so we wanted to grab those kids who are getting ready to get out of school and let them know about the Maldonado Youth Center and all the things that we do. And we also open that up to families, so it's one of a few times that we allow adults and teens to commingle at the youth center. And then we started planning for our summer. So we did with Dennis's help, we got 24 staff. We'll go with 24. 24 staff hired, and then we provided lots of training. We did a weeks-long training. And then what I presented to you in that picture was that we were going to have staff wear these buttons that showed what training they received so that the public would realize how well trained our staff were and take a little bit of pride in the processes that they went through during the hiring process. We found out the buttons were going to be too cumbersome to wear, so they got one button with the mission statement and then stickers on their button that displayed their certifications. And these pictures are from their actual orientation day. So they got a pep talk from Bill Libben, retired from the Boys and Girls Club, and Maribel Salazar, and of course there's Teresa with their hand signals. And then Alex talked. We had the park rangers came in and talked, and Ethan Larson spoke. We talked about what the expectation was as staff is working in the parks, safety concerns, what to look for, types of kids that we might get, and how to deal with certain situations. Everybody received one of these backpacks with we'll call it a safety kit inside, sunscreen, Band-Aids, that sort of thing, their employee manual, et cetera, et cetera. We also offered a Teens Love Cooking program. I think this is a duplicate slide. We offered a Teens Love Cooking program. This was to the 12 to 16-year-olds program. It was free to them, and they just learned various cooking skills. By the way, this is all close to being in chronological order. So then we had a food pantry event, and I think this food pantry, we had over 2,000 families come to this event. We offer arts and crafts, games, and then other vendors are there to offer their services as well. And you'll see there are lots of bags. Those are take-home bags for all the families to take home, and meals that were being served. Lots of vendors were there. And then we started our Safe and Strong site at 11 sites. June 19th through August 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we had a great summer this year. We had more kids this year than last year. I think we had 5,000 kids more than we did last year. So a big jump, but we also had more parks this year. So we had it from 7 to 11. Just a few pictures of some of the fun we had over there. This was our kickoff event. So we had a kickoff event at Oakley Park. Just letting, we kind of missed the grand opening last year at Oakley Park, so we kind of wanted to do it this year. So this was the kickoff event and why we did it at Oakley. We had many vendors there providing food, talking about services that they had to offer. Balloony the Clown was there, the kids loved him. And then we had our drama camp. We had 26 children enrolled in our drama camp. We did the Disney's Lion King Jr. There will be a video, there's a video being produced right now of their production, and so I'm waiting to get that. I was hoping to have it by today. But we brought in a director from the PCPA to teach the kids. We brought in a assistant director who was just a recent graduate of USC, who was in their drama program. And then we brought in a choir instructor also from PCPA who worked with the kids. It was pretty phenomenal. Their acting skills, their singing skills were top notch. We had our Junior Giants program, which far exceeded our expectations. We wrote a grant to start the Junior Giants program. I think we wrote the grant for 80 kids to start in our first year. And as you can see there, we had 150 kids enroll. And it might have been even a little bit more than that because we took some last minute enrollments. But it was great. The Giants program, Giants organization is very happy with us and the turnout that we had. So I'm certain we will be doing this again next year. Plus, I'm pretty sure my boss likes the Giants. Pretty sure. Girls Night Out is a program that we've been doing for many years now. It's an opportunity. What used to happen at the youth center was the girls would come in and go, "You never do anything just for the girls. It's all for boys." So we started a Girls Night Out program. This is an opportunity for just girls to go out and hang out. So we did a beach bonfire, and it says Grover Beach. It's actually Apple Beach. They went to the movies, and then we had some back-to-school makeovers from a former employee of ours who is now a cosmetologist, so she came in and did makeovers. So that's the makeover, that's not Halloween, that's...
I need one.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but...
It's a face mask.
I guess it'll do something good. We had our Movies in the Park program, so we had 5 movies this year. We moved them around from park to park, and we chose those based on where we thought the movie would best be suited. And we just wanted to, we were in Rotary Park, and we were in Oakley Park, we were in Brogan Park, so we moved it around north and west, north and south. It's hard to take pictures of the movie, so we didn't do that. Our concerts in the park, same, we had 5 concerts this year. Our last one was the Brass Factory at Rotary Park, and then we had another concert at Oakley Park. We had a band called La Paz, which is sort of a Latino band that was really good. And then we had 4th of July. This is all just before 4th of July, by the way. You guys may have heard a little bit about 4th of July. I think we had over 1,000 people, I think it was close to 1,500 people participate in our program that day, our event that day, lots of fireworks. Games, this was at Edwards Park, by the way, so the festivities happened in the street. And then we had games and sports in the grassy area in the baseball field there. Parking was something that took some additional planning. We weren't sure how many people were going to come, and so we parked on Panther Drive. The Grizzly Academy handled the parking for us, and we had, you'll see all the cars there parked backwards, and we did that so that at the end of the night, when people were going back to the car, nobody was backing up into pedestrians. So everybody was pulling out forward and going out Panther Drive to Main Street or Panther Drive to Sway Creek Road. And this is our mini chef, junior chef, and Teens Love Cooking program. Once again, another really good set of programs that we offered. Our mini chef program, 3 to 6-year-olds, had 19 kids enrolled. Our junior chef for 7 to 9-year-olds, there was 19 kids enrolled. And then our Teens Love Cooking, 12 to 16-year-olds, there were 14 children enrolled. 2 of those were my nephews. And we were able to get a hold of a young lady by the name of Brittany Cunningham, who was just a recent graduate of the California Culinary Arts College. And she was going to be on her way to France to do an internship, but wasn't able to go. And so I snatched her up. And so she taught these classes, and she was fantastic. Wow. She also did all the catering for our VIP booths at Concerts in the Park, and that was really well received. Our neighborhood block party was something we introduced this year as part of our either movies in the park or concerts in the park. So what we did is we selected one movie and one concert in the park and just added some extra components to it. And we added vendors that were providing services to the local community there, and we had games and sports, bounce houses, and Balloony the Clown was at all of these. So what we did for the neighborhood block parties is we had this flyer, which was a kind of a small flyer. We went into the neighborhood and we passed out about 500 of these flyers, just separate from all the regular advertising we did, just in that neighborhood, just to let them know what we were going to do. Come out, look at cover these vendors, and see what kind of services were available to them. So our movie was Guardians of the Galaxy, so staff made these cardboard box spaceships, and we let kids come in and decorate them and watch their movie in their spaceship. This little guy in the front was pretty funny because he wouldn't stop saluting me the whole time I was there. I don't know why, I don't know what I was wearing that day, but he felt the need to salute me.
He was in character.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we had our National Night Out event August 1st at the Veterans Memorial Park, where we offered free food, hot dogs, and beverages. There was lots of games. Of course, our vendors were there again, providing services or offering services to the families. There were organizations there: San Maria PD, San Maria Fire, Highway Patrol, Sheriff. Lots of law enforcement was out that day. Then we had our Bob Warwick Park dedication. And that comes to an end now. We're at City Picnic. So again, we were very busy this summer. Again, 20 separate programs, and then again, there was lots of the various trips and movies and that sort of thing. We're all separate. So it was a very busy 8 weeks for us. We're glad that part is over, but we're not done yet. We still have lots of things going on. So be on the lookout for the next report.
Wow. Thank you.
Does anybody have follow-up questions or comments?
I have a few questions or
Sure.
comments.
Commissioner Velasco.
I have 3 comments, questions. The open house at the youth center, we've done those twice a year or once a year?
We've been doing them twice a year for the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay. And then the Junior Giants, that's one season per year.
One season.
Okay, I heard really good things about that. Actually, I had a niece that participated and she really liked it.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually not even over yet. I mean, they're done playing, but Junior Giants is still going on. I'm still getting emails on the, I think it's the 21st. I could be wrong, but I think on the 21st, all of the players and families are invited to go to a Junior Giants festival at the AT&T Field. So we're still getting emails. We're still coordinating things with families and kids about going to that event.
That's
so we
great.
don't have to do anything. We just have to coordinate with the families and then do the Giants.
That's awesome.
We're still participating with Junior Giants.
Yeah.
Great.
And then for the neighborhood block parties, I know the department did 2 this year. I was at Oakley Park for a little while and it was very well received. Is there maybe a thought of expanding those
Into more parks? or-
into more parks?
Maybe. We only chose to do 2 because we wanted to make this a pilot and see how well it was received and, what kind of response we got back.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was really good. Grogan, we got a better response at Grogan than we did at Oakley.
Okay.
But Oakley also had a large festival. We didn't know this at the time.
Oh.
At St. John Newman.
Maybe that's why it looked like it was great.
And
Yeah.
it was packed. We had a
Yeah.
whole road closed and the whole deal. So,
Yeah.
yeah, bad timing on that.
That would have been good to
Yeah.
coordinate. Okay.
We'll have to look at that next time.
Yeah. But yeah, great programs this summer.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
Commissioner
have a
Carey?
question. Well, first off, the Junior Giants program, that was a grant, so will we be doing that every year, or at least applying for that grant?
We don't have to
Or is
reapply,
it-
we only have to reapply once, and I guess the city just has to be approved to have it, and then once we get it, it doesn't really go away, we just get to keep doing it, as long as we meet our end of the bargain, and we certainly did
How
that.
cool is that?
This is amazing, I haven't really talked about Junior Giants that much, but, every kid that signs up, whatever that number is, so 180, the Junior Giants sent us 180 baseball gloves. Every kid got a brand new baseball glove.
That's so cool.
And then they get tons of swag. Every week they get a word of the week, and they have to practice that word and use that word in some way. And then if they do that, then they get swag. So they're then these giant bobbleheads and backpacks and hats. So lots of free stuff that these kids get for participating in the program.
Because, the kids get a new glove, which they'll probably outgrow. Is there an encouragement to bring back that glove so you can reuse it for other kids?
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure how this was going to work.
Yeah.
And by the way, these were Rollins A220s. That's
Yeah.
the number 1 baseball glove out there now. Nice gloves, and they probably won't outgrow that glove for a
No?
couple of
Okay.
years. They're a little oversized. But yes, they're going to be encouraged. They do a glove drive,
Okay.
and so they're going to be encouraged in the future to donate their glove to the Junior Giants. I don't know how they use those little gloves once they get them back. I'm sure they've got some program. But every year, from my understanding, we're going to get new gloves to give out to the kids.
Wow.
And what's amazing is the program's free. So, my nephews play, work in Little League, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to the Junior Giants next year. So,
That's cute.
Nice.
And sorry, one last
ahead.
question. I know the last time we went to the SLO County Commissioners kind of workshop forum, Junior Giants presented. That's where we first heard about it. And there was a Cal Poly professor that was doing evaluation on the program. Are we participating in that, or do you not have any? Is that part of the organization, and then we just don't have anything to do with that, or you
I
don't
missed what you
know?
heard after Cal Poly.
There was a Cal Poly professor doing like an evaluation of the program and things like that on Junior Giants. I don't know if we directly work with them or if that's part of the organization. We just send our information.
Yeah, so what happens is the Junior Giants, they hire a commissioner. So we have a commissioner assigned to us. Those commissioners are typically out of the rec department at Cal Poly. And Cal Poly does a survey. We're also giving a survey. The families are giving a survey. So, we're survey heavy in this, and we're still doing surveys even now. And I think what happens is Cal Poly commingles all that data and then provides it to the
Yeah.
Junior Giants. That's their portion.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
And that's, the commissioner made pretty good salary too, it's not too bad.
Commissioner Carey?
Just, back to the safe and strong sites. I mean, Jim May Park is by my house, and the girl that ran that, it was just Destiny, I think her name was.
Which
Yeah, Jim May.
Yep, Destiny.
darling girl, and she said she was going to apply for, she'd like to stay on. Anyway, FYI, she was really good. But I'm just curious about the Safe and Strong sites. Would Buena Vista Park had been a Safe and Strong site had they been operational this summer? Is that
Possibly.
normally?
They were a Safe and Strong site the year before. Possibly. I mean, we didn't even consider it because it was already fenced in I think, by the time we were doing our planning.
Okay, amazing job, thank you.
Also, just want to mention really quick, the Junior Giants was actually, we brought in an intern, Patrick Sims, who ran the program on a day-to-day basis. And he did a great job, and his internship ended. I think he worked for us for another 2 weeks, and then he got a job at San Luis Rec and Parks. So we're pretty proud of him this year. Doing such a great job running that program.
Further questions? I was curious, in your presentation, you said that the programs overall reached about 5,000 more youth than in previous years, and that more parks were used. I wonder how that was possible. Was there a change in funding? Is it something that we expect to see next year? Is there any way that we can further grow the program so that more youth have access?
Well, I'll answer what I can. So, back in the 80s, when I was a rec leader, I think we had what is equivalent to a Safe and Strong program in just about every park.
Right.
And so, 10 months ago, I talked to Alex. I said, I'd really like to bring that back, that format back, and he agreed. And so, but we started off with 7 parks. This year, we were able to get 11. I think Alex asked for more funding, but I'll defer that to him. I would like to see it grow even more. And I think that that's part of the Mayor's Youth Task Force that I saw in some of the information there from the forums, that they want more activities in the park. So I'm open to it. I think our staff is open to it. We just have to be able to do that. It's a lot of staff.
Right. Very good. Amazing. I can't believe 8 weeks. I mean, it's mind-boggling that so much can happen, but it's great. So great work. Thank you.
One of the things that, Jason mentioned in his slides, at the bottom of each of those flyers were the sponsors. So we got a lot of community support towards the expenses associated with those events. And without those sponsors, those kinds of things wouldn't happen, because even though we can provide the staff, if we don't have the money to pay for movies, or if we don't have the money to pay for the support items that we need and supplies, then, those things wouldn't happen. So, we really appreciate the groups that were identified in there. And, Rotary Breakfast Rotary has been a sponsor for several years in the movies and in the park, and so supporting that end. So there's a lot of groups like that you'll see in the credits, I guess, that help us out. So we want to appreciate their support. Then as far as extension goes and other sites, it is something that the Mayor's Youth Task Force has talked about, is how to get more programs to youth earlier. And this to us makes a lot of sense. So we will be coming back, with a school year program at those locations where they're needed, and where maybe the ACES programs are either full or not able to, to be offered. So we're trying to, again, provide some stopgap. As far as money goes, there's never enough money. I think that this year the challenge I gave Teresa was to go ahead and find the money to do the work. If there was obviously a need expressed to us throughout the Mayor's Youth Task Force meetings. So we dug in the budget. We found money. There are things that we're not going to be doing. Example, the Autumn Arts Grapes and Grain Festival is not coming back as that format. There will be no art component to that this year. That was a very labor-intensive event, not only in the planning but in the execution of it. And so those dollars were redirected. And remember, the money that we've used to create the Safe and Strong last year came from our elimination of what was our traditional day camp program. And so, we try, we see what's new and where we can, expand and still keep our costs constrained.
Right.
So.
Commissioner Velasco?
The only thing, I guess for the Safe and Strong program that I don't know, I mean, this is a thing we grapple with all the time is the school cooperation with the fencing. Because once Safe and Strong is over, the kids are there, they still want to continue playing, but the school's locked, so they can't get into the playground. And I think we need to work on that for next year, because the jumping over the fences or going under is not something we want to see. And the kids shouldn't have to be doing that. If they want to continue being outdoors and our program is over, they should have access to the schools. And that's the only thing I can see for next year moving forward. I saw it a lot at Westgate, because that's where I would walk by. You know, the program be over, the kids would still be playing, your staff was picking up, and then, you know, they were trying to find a way to get on the basketball courts or the playground. And I think it's in our duty to really make sure that those schools are open in the summer when there's no kids there. So there's not a safety protocol to follow, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I kind of see moving forward.
And, you know, we've had that discussion, you know, last year we met with the district, we tried to, you know, impress upon them the need to look at their hours and their hours of operations. And as far as I know, I don't know that anything has really changed anywhere. I think we went through the last Little League season with the same kind of restrictions, you know, to access. It's a challenge, and you know, I don't know. Part of the challenge will be to get more of our sites accessible for those kinds of things. You know, we don't have a lot of hard courts at a lot of the parks. Some do, some don't. So if you want to go to a basketball court, I hate to have to duplicate the effort, but you know, that may be where we need to go, where we, you know, provide like facilities. Maybe not as many basketball courts as a school site has, but maybe at least a couple at some of our other facilities. One of the things that we're looking at right now is with the district is the Jimenez School project in that park, where we got a proposal, I guess, if you want to call it that, from architectural class, landscape architectural class at Cal Poly, who's going to take that on as a class project. So one of the things that they're going to design is the park as it sits today, with 1.5 acres being behind the school fence. And the other one was with that fence being moved back to the school property line, and then developing the whole site as a, I think it's about 7 acres total. So we're going to see how that kind of comes back, and you know, we'll try to address that.
Great. All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, new business. I don't have anything listed here.
No new business. I do want to remind you the picnic is on Saturday. So we hope that you will all be able to come and help recognize, you know, the employees' efforts throughout the year, not only in our department, but across the city. A lot of the people that help with the events that Jason announced today, they'll be the people working that day too, you know, because there's no rest for the wicked, so they're going to be out there doing their things. But also on Saturday, the 16th, from 2 to 6 at Santa Maria Foursquare Church, they're going to be dedicating their playground. So I'm going to pass this around. They would like to have some representation from the commission there.
Oh, this Saturday show.
It is a fiesta theme since it's on the 16th of September. They're going to, would like to have some photo ops, so if any of you can attend, or one of you can attend as the official representative for us. Obviously from staff side of it, we're going to be pretty busy with the picnic, so I don't see that being possible. There was also a request just to do, I think there's a ribbon cutting. I don't know if it's proposed for that day. But if you're interested and if you have the time or can break away for an hour or so to go over there, we can get the details for you. Yeah, and the other grant that we did was the Hancock College grant. That one is moving forward. The project is well underway. They wanted to get it ready for their football season, so they'll be out there.
Great. All right then, we also don't have anything listed under item 6 for old business. So we'll move on to item 7, informational reports. If we could have a budget update from Mr. Smitherman, please.
With the math double checked, with 16.66% of our repair completed, we are under budget by 1.94%, which is pretty status quo.
Any questions? I had a question. The two new line items, street trees and mayor's task force, can you tell me about those?
Absolutely. The street trees line item usually has a budget populated in it, but at the time this was printed, our finance department hasn't reallocated those funds for the current fiscal year. So we should see that actually have, I want to say roughly 250,000. That's
Closer to 4.
Was that from the grant?
Closer to 400, sorry.
That was the grant?
No, this is separate from the grant.
Okay.
This is gas tax revenue.
Okay.
And then the next question you had was the Mayor's Youth Task Force. Also, no funds have been allocated to date. We had some funding last year that you saw. The expenses didn't actually occur till this year, so that's why we're in negative. And we're in the process of doing some carryovers, but again, I'm not sure that was one of the accounts because it was a very low amount. But we're looking for additional funding to offset some of those expenses.
So those will be regular line items on our
They will.
report?
Right, we tried to create a place for the Mayor's Youth Task Force anywhere in a budget somewhere because it existed nowhere in the
Right.
city's budget. So
Okay.
we decided we should identify that, and the city manager's office agreed, and they agreed we should put it in our budget. So it's there, so if council wants to make an allocation out of the general fund budget, it has a place to go. We also, last year, as Dennis mentioned, we did take money from our existing budget and reprogram it into the Mayor's Youth Task Force, so there was money to pay for some of the associated expenses with that. I think we did like $5,000 or something along those lines. And there are costs associated with the program. Fortunately, the bulk of them, which is the consultant, were being covered by the Board of Supervisors grant to the city. So we were just kind of ancillary things that you need for meetings.
Right.
I have a correction, sorry. That is not gas tax funding. That is an old account number that probably just needs to be removed from your spreadsheet.
Street trees?
The street trees?
The street trees.
Completely?
Completely.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Posada, should we inform the mayor that her task force is closest to the mosquito intervention program line item?
Sure.
Is there?
And that's it. I think that Teresa and I were just talking before we started the meeting that we need to identify budgets for the ideas that are coming out of the task force. You know, they're going to require allocations of dollars from somewhere. Either we're going to look at grants, or we're going to look at other agencies, or we're going to look at a general fund allocation. But we need to, based on the comments that were made at all of these different sessions of the Mayor's Youth Task Force, is to come up with a plan. And Teresa's meeting tomorrow with a couple of the agencies that that we do a lot of work with to talk about what is it that we can do. One of my goals and challenges for Teresa is to make sure that whatever it is we present, that it's manageable within our existing resources, and that it's measurable so that we can show the impact and show the value of what service it is we're providing in relation to the Mayor's Youth Task Force programs. So.
The funding for Eddie or Mr. Galarza, it's not in, is it from the grant or is it from this line item, or is it separate?
It is actually, there's some of the money that comes from the grant, but most of it is an allocation from the general fund that the city manager's office put in. So you won't see it as a separate item. It's encompassed in our rec division, I think, budget.
Right. Was there anything else, Mr. Smith? Thank you. And moving on to 7B, noteworthy activities. The August report is included in our packet. Always full. Mr. Posada?
So that pretty much says it, always full. There's just a lot of things going on. Jason, recap, that was the youth side of things, but we continue with our senior programs, we continue with our maintenance and operations programs. We didn't touch on aquatics. Typically, we'll bring you a report at the end of the summer aquatics program. We might have that at your next meeting, so you get an idea of numbers through the Paul Nelson Aquatic Center, also from the Pioneer High School facility. So I know that they've been working hard. And then Also, to have in that next meeting, we'll give you a little bit of a report on the impacts that the automated registration system has had on us over the summer. So we can get an idea of, I know that, anecdotally, I know that we don't have as many people coming in the office as we used to. And just by virtue of the traffic, that, as we see it dropping. However, our enrollment continues the same. It's just we don't see that traffic, in the offices. The other challenge for that staff will be to take us from just class registration, that was our experiment this last year, and move us into facility reservations, so where you'll be able to reserve a pilot number of parks and picnic areas and buildings through the system, so you don't have to come into the office necessarily to find out if the date's available and how much it costs. You may have to come in to make your payment or sign documents, but we're also trying to work on an electronic way to sign the documents. Hopefully what that's creating is, again, an opportunity for us to take some of the resources that we have for face-to-face customer service and maybe putting those towards something like expanding the youth programs. So, we're waiting to see how that handles. So we'll give you a report in this at your October meeting on that.
Great. And just side note, the staff downstairs at the recreation office is very, very kind and accommodating and helpful, and I felt really bad when I had to go in and ask for help. I couldn't figure it out online, but they didn't seem bothered by it at all. They were fantastic, so
Good.
As always. So moving on, 7C, Director's Report, we have the Field Committee Report. Was that Mr. Davis?
As you recall, last month, the commission revived the multi-use field committee to take a look at how we might better upgrade some of the fields, city fields and school fields, with the fact that we did not receive the grant, and use this as a chance to upgrade the fields in the meantime until we're able to get a multi-sports complex together. We met on September 5th. Representatives from soccer leagues, youth and adult soccer leagues, Santa Maria Bonita School District, and Commissioners Batterson and Carey were there. What we did is we took the inventory list that was done of what fields we had from the last committee and started taking a look at prioritizing which ones would be for game fields or which should be upgraded. We'll be taking, staff will be taking those and taking a look at those, what upgrades need to be made to those and potential cost. So some of the discussion that centered on was Scott Roy, who is the maintenance, in charge of maintenance for the school district, said that next summer they're looking at renovating the Alvin and Fessler fields, is on their radar to do, and they've got that working on. They're doing El Camino right now at this time, and they're doing those as in-house. And they said that also that what I wasn't aware of was with the school bonds, some of the schools the schools were given how they want to prioritize use of their money and upgrades of their facilities. And not all of them chose to use, some of them chose to use field upgrades as a priority, and others did not have field upgrades. So there will be some upgrades done at the schools. Well, one thing he did mention is we did talk briefly about, following up from the last committee meeting, or last committee, about, for instance, Adams School, maybe putting a separate fence between the field and the school so that people could get on the sports field or the playground and use that, and he said that would not be, they don't want to deal with another fence, so that would be something that they would not be doing or considering at this time. Because that was one of the options that we'd come up with as a committee before, was maybe funding fences to go separate the two. And he said that they don't want another fence to have to deal with at this point. There was also some discussion on why Hancock and Hancock College and Santa Maria High School District went there, and we mentioned about 3 years ago, the department, we pulled in all the school districts and talked about the need for field space and conditions and working with the youth groups. And both Hancock College and Santa Maria High School District said that they wanted any requests. They didn't want us being a go-between. They wanted groups to come to them directly and they would handle it. One of the things that was discussed during the meeting was the price to rent the fields. I think it was like $800 for the football field for the day at the schools. things. And, those are school fees set by the district and by their board, and that they would need to discuss with the appropriate staff at those sites. But it's been made pretty clear to staff from those two districts that they don't want the city involved in, outside of our own programs, talking fees and negotiating fees with them. And then there also was some brief, one of the members, and we've also got a couple of community members, I forgot to mention that in the report, but said that they had some people that wanted to donate time to upgrade fields and materials and those type of things. And we recommended that they contact either myself or Scott Roy on an individual basis of what they're looking at, because there are some things, that, depending on what the work is going to be done, that prevailing wage, different regulations that may need to be taken into account. For instance, one of the things that Mr. Roy mentioned is if somebody was wanting to donate dirt or bring dirt into the school fields, the dirt has to be certified as a certain level of cleanliness, so it's not a contaminated everything. And a lot of things, things like that people don't think of. It's just dirt is dirt, but there are things. So, and we have not heard of it. I have not been contacted yet by anybody since the meeting that expressing their interest on that. And the next meeting is scheduled for the 25th of September at 4:30 at the Manami Community Center. And at that point, we'll be reviewing the list of fields to be up and what type of improvements and potential cost. And then maybe start taking a look at how we might be able to fund those, or start looking at funding sources.
Great. Questions? I was a little unclear. Under discussion, you mentioned Alvin and Fessler are tentatively scheduled for renovation. Are you indicating that those sites are possibly at the top of the list for?
Yeah, well, those are sites that Mr. Roy mentioned were going to be done. It's on the district's radar already that they're looking. Commissioner, I'm probably about 90% sure that they're going to be renovated during this summer. But he wasn't 100% sure, but they're definitely, those are two fields that they're looking at doing this summer. So we would not be looking at those as something in the since those are already scheduled to be renovated.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that since we're looking at these sites and we've prioritized, that there is agreement to move forward on sharing this space and having the sites open.
That would be something else we'll work on. Right now, the procedure is still the same as a group or team or individual organization would go to the individual school to seek permission to use it and schedule it. Right now, the way the district operates is each school, each principal has the authority to decide who comes on and when, and everybody has to come on, has to have a background check, those type of things during school hours and those type of things.
Can I ask, the representatives from Santa Maria Bonita School District, were there just one or are there others?
Yeah, one, Scott Roy, yeah.
Because I feel like a year ago when we met, that was the case, that was how it was being handled at the time, but that the superintendent indicated that that was cumbersome and it was something that needed to be looked at. And so are we not looking at that anymore, or is the superintendent able to attend the next meeting?
I have not been in contact with the superintendent. The Scott Roy, I've been told, is their representative. We can make that outreach and ask, but
Only because of the
but yeah, even during our last committee meetings, the multi-use committee, we were told, there had been no changes in the procedures and stuff. And really, in my understanding, Miller School is really the only one that is opening their campus when there's no activities for the public to come on and use.
Okay.
Yeah, there really hasn't been any movement on that since that meeting. And I'm not sure whether there was supposed to be follow-up on our part or whether there's supposed to be follow-up on their part. Most of the items that we talked about dealt with their administrative structure. In the last email I received, I think it came from the business manager at the district, was that yes, the public is welcome to use our facilities as long as they meet our current standard, which is the background checks and those kinds of things. There wasn't really anything associated with opening the school sites after school hours. So I haven't seen anything on that. And it's probably, I mean, probably will behoove us to, rekindle that fire again and have a discussion with the superintendent or the board. And realize that the mayor does meet with all the school superintendents. I think it's bi-monthly. And they talk about things. We can certainly let the mayor know that it's something that we want to, you as a commission want to bring to their attention and see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you there at that meeting, and there was definitely some disconnect on what the
Practices.
Yeah. So, I definitely think we need to, it would behoove us to, bring back that conversation and make sure that if there was a different direction after that meeting and they're not aware of that it's being followed, so.
Sure, we can follow up with that. There were a series of notes taken at that meeting and distributed to everybody, and everybody agreed to those. At that time, like I said, Superintendent Ontiveros was probably there like a week, 2 weeks. So, it's like anything else. Things, the priorities kind of, I think, got in the way.
Is there another mechanism, since only 2 commissioners can attend these meetings to avoid Brown conflicts? Is there another way that we could meet and have a more open forum with more representatives, even perhaps the school board members?
Sure, you can call for a public hearing meeting, and, that would allow 3 of you to attend. Actually, all 5 of you, but, if you didn't want to attend, up to 3 could attend without a problem. And the same Brown Act applies to the school board.
Right.
They have that same limitation.
Right.
I don't know how many members they actually have, but they can't have a majority, so.
Right. We might want to explore that. I mean,
Sure.
if we're not making any headway. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Just to follow up on Jim's comments, just so that you know what's going on the finance side of things for sports. So we applied to the state for under their sports facility grant last year, and that didn't happen. So right now, the governor and the legislature have agreed on a bill titled Senate Bill 5, and it is the Clean Water, Parks, and Infrastructure Act. It's a $3.5 billion bond measure that'll be presented in November 2018 to the electorate. It sets aside $800 million for community park projects on a competitive basis. And it also sets aside $200 million for what is called underserved communities, which is it's pretty weird because we don't usually see that. It is very specific to, right now the way the bill is written, to the Central Valley, desert, and mountain communities. You don't qualify for any of those, but there are some real segmented dollars. There's an additional $200 million set aside for what they call the per capita program. And what that, for per capita, typically they will set a value of, I think in the past it's been around $6 a person resident of your city. So based on your population, your city would have an allocation. So we would have an allocation, let's say, of $700,000, somewhere around there, that we could apply for and bring projects forward that would meet the criteria, which is basically renovation, expansion, and modernization of your existing parks. So, and we've used that in several of our projects in the past when the last state bond measure passed. But it's still subject to approval, so we still have to submit an application. We still have to say this is what we want to do with the money. They still have to approve it. So it goes through the entire, granting process. So even if the money became available, the next day, the state would still take their time having to lay out the plan, how to access that money. What I did note was in the legislation is that they actually referred to the last bond measure's rules and regulations as being the way to distribute this money. So that might speed it up a little bit. Theoretically, if the measure is approved by the voters in November, cities could start seeing money as soon as January on these projects. So we have the soccer grant. We have the soccer grant written. We have it. Teresa's talked to the state about issues that they may have had with our presentation or things that we may have missed. So, that is ready to go back into the hopper as soon as something happens. The governor has said that he is not in support of the per capita funding, that $200 million based on your population. So that may end up being cut from that $3.5 billion budget. But there's a number of there's some forestry money in there, which would also help us with our street tree program and our urban forest. There's some water projects that could again help us if we design projects that help with retention so it's a bond measure that'll be out there. I think I sent out to you all some information on the Assembly bill. So the Assembly bill is dead and has really been absorbed into this Senate bill. And the governor and Senator De Leon, the chairman of the Senate committees, have agreed to this draft. So we'll see what happens with that. We're hopeful that, we're able to do that. It's definitely not the $1 million that we need to kick the soccer complex off, but it certainly is, at least there's an opportunity for the electorate to kind of, voice their opinion on the importance of parks. So we'll see how that goes.
Great. Thank you. Then moving on to item 8, commissioner reports. Does anybody have official business conducted that they would like to share out? Commissioner Carey, you always have something.
Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, I had eye surgery, so I missed a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want, and I'm still can't really see very well. So I was like, okay. I mean, fine, but I'm just like, okay. The Public Art Master Plan meeting, which went really well. Dennis has done an amazing job. All of our job now is to attend the city council meeting on October 3rd. And if we can't attend, at least send a note to all of the city council people and give input and maybe share it on our social media that we want this, or we need the public art. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing we have right now. The Youth Sport Field Committee meeting, which went well. I hope we have some major money somewhere on the horizon, though, because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of play for us, a whole lot of room to do this, but whatever we can eke out, I'm sure we'll get it. What else? Youth Sports Field, the Mayor's Youth Task Force. There's a lot going on. It's pretty amazing, and I think it's going to benefit us. It's a really positive. It's a really positive force that's going on, and I think it's going to take a lot more time. But it's, everybody knows it's going really well. It'll be really positive for our community. Oh, and then the Fighting Back Santa Maria. I went to the Fighting Back Santa Maria. I don't know, you were there, yeah. It was actually sponsored by them in First Five, and I thought that it was really pertinent to Parks and Recreation and Parks, just because it talked about how children are nurtured, and that's basically what we're about with Recreation and Parks, with all of our programs. And so it's a really wonderful place for us to focus. They have a lot of money too, which is good. Anyway, that's about what I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Patterson?
I also attended the Sports Field Committee, and I was very impressed with the other members that were there. They're very passionate about the youth and also the adults playing and just finding areas and a large problem with finding fields that are adequate some of them are just not large enough to use, especially, in the schools and some of the parks. And so it was very good to have it all divided down as to which ones are available for practice and which ones can be available for actual games until we can, get money to build something that's, larger and can encompass more members. And, I think it's going to progress, but we just have to keep on it and just keep, moving ahead. And the other thing is I attended the Taste of Mexico, and as always, it was a very well-attended event, and I think, those attending are less rambunctious or something. It was very pleasant this year. It was very, very, very nicely run.
It's funny, if I can interrupt, just because Jason's staff had to put that event together too, and I didn't see that in the slideshow, so.
Cindy's going to do a slideshow next.
Oh, for the play side of it, yeah.
Initially it was.
Yes, so, good.
Mr. Burnett?
Well, I put my best of show raffle ticket in the mole for the Taqueria Carmelita. I haven't had mole like that since I lived in Mexico, so yes, I was very pleased. I went to and participated in the Surf Santa Maria, which was great. I love how many city folk are there and being a blessing to our city. That was fabulous. Commissioner Carey and I were at the city council meeting and celebrated the Elks. I got to wear my boots, but I don't have the really nice bolo tie that they had, so I felt underdressed. And one last thing, my daughter's taking the Tiny Tots swim class, I think is what it's called right now, and she just absolutely loves it. So I love our city. We have a great city, and thank you to you for making that happen.
If I can just give one shameless plug here. One of our premier special events is El Dia de los Muertos. And it's really great. The first year we saw primarily Hispanic folks, which was great. The next year we saw more people of Anglo. And now it's pretty much a mix, and they're coming together without understanding that they're coming together, and it's really something that we would like to expand upon. We used to do many, many years ago when I was a rec leader, which is just a couple of months ago, is that we had an international festival, and people started out in their own sections, and then food brings everybody together. We had Indians there, we had Portuguese people there, we had the Oriental people there, and the people in the community all came together. And before I retire or whenever we do this, I would love to see that come back again. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Commissioner Velasco?
Yeah, I attended Plays Taste of Mexico as well. I was pouring beer and pouring less, so maybe that's why the crowd was rambunctious. But it was a great event. I thought it was, again, well attended, and the restaurants that participate and give of their time for that event, I think they have fun, and we had a good showing this year, so that was great.
Fantastic. It was busy. Are there any community interest items on the horizon?
Just following up on Taste of Mexico, so that event, was the brainchild of Judge Flores when he was on the play board, and he reminds me every year that it was his idea. But Judge Flores, it will be retiring from the bench this next year, and so he's looking to us to host is the wrong word, but to work with him on his retirement. When right now it's going to be scheduled in, I believe it's May of next year out at Pioneer Park. So if you guys can be sure to keep your calendars open, we'll give you more specifics as we get them.
For the whole month?
For the whole month, yeah. Just Saturdays for the whole month. He called me today and he says, well, you know, Alex, he goes, I may have underestimated how many people might come. He goes, I'm thinking we might have, you know, over 1,000 people there. And I said, yeah, I would guess that'd be about right. So we'll see how that goes. The other thing is, you've all heard that the city manager has announced his retirement, and his last official duty will be the December 5th city council meeting. So I will be bringing you an item probably in your November meeting, recognizing his leadership and his service. Commissioner Burnett just mentioned Serve Santa Maria. You know, he's out at every one of them, and you know, brings his family when they can come, and you know, he's really was a catalyst for getting those kinds of things going in the city and getting the city staff to be involved. So I'll bring that all back to you in November.
Fantastic.
Oh, sorry, I have one more thing. Alex, Mayor Patino sent us something months ago that Rod Roddenberger, I think in fact he was here, for us to honor a certain Recreation and Parks employee. Okay, we have to find it.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and look and see.
I was asked about that the other day.
I remember he talked about basketball, and Jim has addressed
Pickleball,
basketball.
yeah.
And pickleball. Everything's been kind of, you know.
Somebody that retired that he thought it would be a good idea to name something, a certain area in one of the parks after him.
Yeah, I'll have to go look that one
Yeah,
up.
okay.
Yes. We'll look in the minutes and see where that
Okay,
is.
good. Thanks. That's it.
All right. Any other community interest items to bring forward? All right, then with that, we will adjourn to our next regular business meeting, Tuesday, October 10th at 4 o'clock.
October 10th.
Thank you.
I say 6 o'clock. Don't call it 6.
Yeah, I